Capcom, we're go for powered descent.
Challenger Houston, you're go for PDI.
Okay, Houston, master arm is out. I've got 2 good lights. Fuel is good.
In 2017, a baffling video appeared online, uploaded by an unknown person, claiming to show footage from a covert Apollo 20 mission that landed on the moon to explore an ancient alien spaceship. The video allegedly revealed the eerie sight of an alien woman nicknamed Mona Lisa found within the spacecraft. Conspiracy theories capture our imagination, especially when they hint at questions yet to be uncovered. Is humanity ready to uncover the hidden layers behind this confidential moon mission? Let us delve into the shadows of Apollo 20 to discover the real truth behind the moon landings. Final moon trip, Apollo 17's last adventure. The last manned trip to the moon was in December 1972 with the Apollo 17 mission. Astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt spent a record 3 days on the moon's surface, ending what was a truly enthusiastic phase of space exploration. However, this was not meant to be the final chapter. NASA had more Apollo missions lined up and was actively working on the spacecraft for these future travels. But then, quite unexpectedly, NASA announced the cancellation of all upcoming Apollo missions, citing waning public interest and budget reductions as the main reasons. This decision was a huge letdown for space enthusiasts, who had been thrilled by the series of successful moon landings by the US. One can only wonder what might have been accomplished if the Apollo program had continued, perhaps establishing a base on the moon or even exploring its lesser-known regions, which some speculate might contain relics of an ancient, otherworldly civilization. Years later, in 2007, an interesting character popped up on YouTube with the username Retired AFB. This individual started posting some very odd videos about an event that, according to official records, never happened. He claimed these videos were from a confidential Apollo 20 mission, which was supposedly a joint effort between the US and Soviet astronauts. Retired AFB revealed that the US had returned to the moon in secrecy after NASA had publicly declared the cancellation of Apollo 18, 19, and 20. The reason for this secrecy? They needed to examine strange structures found during earlier missions. According to his videos, Apollo 20 was launched in August 1976, specifically to explore the darker side of the moon. He showed images that he claimed were taken by Apollo 15, which appeared to depict a huge ancient city and a massive crashed spacecraft. Retired AFB also claimed he was one of the astronauts on the Apollo 20 mission and that he was now a retired astronaut living in exile in Rwanda. He identified himself as William Rutledge and mentioned his crewmates were Leona Marietta Snyder and Alexei Leonov. The release of these videos caused quite a stir. Imagine if there was more to our moon than what we've been told. The thought of further exploring the moon, maybe even setting up a permanent base there, is incredibly intriguing. And the idea of finding ancient cities or spacecraft on the moon, that pushes our curiosity to new heights. These kinds of findings could potentially change everything we know about space and our place in the cosmos. What could these remnants from the past teach us? How would they alter our understanding of history and our future in space exploration? Keep watching for more. William Rutledge's story seemed too incredible to be true. He spoke about a mission called Apollo 20, which was unknown until he mentioned it. What made people pause and consider his story was when he dropped the name Alexei Leonov. Leonov was a legendary Soviet and Russian cosmonaut, celebrated for his pioneering spacewalk. He was also the commander of the Soyuz capsule in a historic mission that connected with an American Apollo capsule in space. If Rutledge was fabricating his tale, why would he include such a well-known and easily verifiable figure as Leonov? This detail made listeners think twice. Could Rutledge actually be onto something? Could his claims hold a shred of truth? In his online post, Rutledge included a video showing what he claimed was the interior of an Apollo spacecraft. The video featured a window looking out into space, remarkably similar to those seen in authentic Apollo mission photos. Additionally, there was a control panel that closely resembled those used in actual Apollo missions. Notably, the footage included a flag that merged the American and Soviet designs and a mission patch labeled Apollo 20 with the astronauts' names underneath. Rutledge didn't stop there. He also uploaded videos depicting what he described as a city built by aliens and a large cigar-shaped spaceship. This spaceship appeared cleverly hidden within the moon's landscape in an official NASA photograph taken on the moon's far side. At first glance, the image might just look like a typical part of the moon's surface. However, with a closer look, you could see a massive object, almost 2 miles long, blending into the lunar surroundings. Rutledge claimed that the mission of Apollo 20 was to investigate this huge ancient spacecraft that had supposedly crash-landed on the moon about 1.5 billion years ago. But wait, there's more. Over time, Rutledge continued to share more materials, additional videos, images, and snippets from his journal. Each new piece of evidence he provided was more shocking than the last. Perhaps the most breathtaking revelation came through a video that supposedly showed the Apollo 20 crew inside the wreckage of the spacecraft. This wasn't just any video. It seemed like something out of a science fiction movie. It showed the insides of what appeared to be an ancient alien ship and focused on a partially mummified young woman covered in a waxy substance whom the astronauts had named Mona Lisa. This woman appeared to be hooked up to the spacecraft's control systems by a device attached to her eyes and nose. Rutledge's videos boldly challenged the conventional view that life beyond Earth is merely fiction. They suggested that NASA and the US government might have been keeping significant information hidden from the public for decades. The biggest question that remains is whether this footage was real or just an elaborate hoax. This question continues to spark debate and curiosity about our understanding of space and the broader universe. After Rutledge uploaded these shocking videos to YouTube, Italian reporter Luca Scantamburlo got in touch with him for a chat. During their conversation, Rutledge shared more insights about the strange extraterrestrial being the Apollo 20 mission reportedly encountered. He shared that the alien looked like it wasn't fully alive, but not completely gone either, kind of like it was frozen in time. Rutledge said that the team had removed the female-like figure from some sort of control mechanism and then brought it back to Earth, where it's now kept under tight security. As the stories of confidential missions and old alien artifacts got people talking, a new twist was about to unfold with a surprising confession: hidden Moon Apollo 20's big discoveries. He went on to describe the alien spacecraft they came across as a massive mothership, incredibly old, probably around 1 billion years. Naturally, Rutledge's videos attracted a lot of attention, quickly amassing millions of views. Interestingly, right after he dropped these bombshell revelations, his account was strangely hacked and all the videos disappeared. This raised a lot of eyebrows. Many of his viewers started thinking that maybe NASA was trying to suppress this information. Despite the efforts to scrub the videos from Rutledge's account, it didn't really stop anything. Copies of the videos started showing up on different websites. It seemed like whatever the intention behind deleting Rutledge's videos was, it didn't really work. But then again, it brings up the question: was NASA involved in any of this at all? It's time we try to figure out what's real and what's not. Ready to go through the details? Even though Rutledge put together a very captivating story, it appears he might have overstepped a bit in his storytelling. Several months after these startling videos surfaced online, French sculptor Thierry Speth stepped up and admitted on an online forum that he was the mastermind behind the Apollo 20 hoax. In an interview, he even showed off his sculpture of the alien, which he called Mona Lisa. Yet despite Speth's confession of making the whole thing up, a twist emerged. Many of Rutledge's supporters continued to share the images and videos across various online forums, adamant in their belief that the events were genuine. Why do you think the tale continued to circulate even after Speth confessed it was all made up? Some believe that Speth's confession was a strategy by NASA to cast doubt on Rutledge's claims. Could this admission have been NASA's way of trying to manage the fallout or spread false information? That seems doubtful. Even though there are rumors that NASA keeps a lot hidden about extraterrestrial life, the videos Rutledge shared had too many flaws to be taken seriously. And that's not all. Let's start with how the hoax was put together. The person behind it used genuine NASA moon photos to craft scenes that included made-up elements. A lot of the moon surface shots shown in these videos are clearly patched together using official NASA images. Also, the sweeping shot that supposedly shows a huge alien city on the moon's surface is actually a digital creation. It uses a photo from the Apollo 17 mission combined with an artistic depiction of an alien landscape by Bruce Pennington. The segment that supposedly shows an alien mothership was likely done using models, and the standout part of the videos, the figure known as Mona Lisa, is probably just a clay model crafted by Speth to create a buzz. This figure carries the distinctive style of Speth's previous artworks and doesn't come close to resembling a real body as shown in most of the video clips. Furthermore, how can we overlook the careless approach taken by the astronauts toward the alleged alien body? They didn't adhere to necessary safety protocols and conducted rough medical tests that would never be approved in a genuine NASA mission. Clearly, the story of Apollo 20 and its supposed confidential mission to explore an ancient alien spaceship is intriguing but not factual. So why does this fascinating but fictional story about a trip to the moon's dark side keep getting attention despite the facts? The ongoing fascination with this story might be due to our natural curiosity about the unknown. People are often drawn to ideas that challenge their understanding of the world. The notion of finding alien life or ancient alien technology on the moon fires up the imagination and invites us to think about possibilities beyond our everyday experiences. This curiosity keeps people engaged, even when the evidence points clearly to a fabrication. Moreover, the internet plays a huge role in keeping such stories alive. Once something is online, it can be shared, reshaped, and reposted across countless platforms, reaching new audiences who may not be aware of the original context or the debunking that followed. Each share and repost can add a layer of intrigue, drawing more viewers into the discussion, regardless of the story's authenticity. The community aspect also can't be ignored. Online communities and forums provide spaces where like-minded individuals can gather and share their thoughts, theories, and evidence, no matter how dubious. These platforms allow the Apollo 20 story to not just survive, but thrive, as members of these communities defend their beliefs against skeptics, bonding over shared views. Additionally, distrust in official statements and mainstream narratives can lead some to favor more sensational alternative explanations. When official accounts are viewed with skepticism, alternative stories, even debunked ones, can be seen as hidden truths that authorities are trying to suppress. This skepticism can make the conspiracy more appealing than the more mundane reality, fueling further discussion and belief. But there's even more. The story of Apollo 20 involves elements that have a cinematic quality, much like a science fiction movie. There's an ancient spaceship, an alien city, and a strange figure frozen in time, components that make for a compelling narrative. This cinematic appeal can capture the imagination, making the story something that people want to believe despite its implausibility. The Apollo 20 hoax continues to be discussed and shared not because of its veracity, but because of a combination of human curiosity, the power of the internet, community dynamics, skepticism toward authority, and the sheer entertainment value of the story. These factors together create a perfect storm that keeps the story in circulation, inviting more people to wonder about what might be out there, even if the tale itself is nothing more than a well-constructed fiction. Even with the hoax exposed, the amazing progress of the Apollo missions still shows what humans can achieve in their quest to explore space. Apollo missions, the moon adventure. The Apollo program, run by NASA, was a monumental series of space missions during the 1960s and 1970s that aimed to send humans to the moon and bring them back safely. It kicked off under President John F. Kennedy's leadership and represented a giant leap in space exploration efforts. The program started with several tests using unmanned spacecraft to ensure everything would work correctly. Unfortunately, the very first mission with a crew, Apollo 1, ended in a devastating tragedy when a fire broke out in the spacecraft during a ground test, leading to the deaths of astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger B. Chaffee. This heartbreaking event forced NASA to go back to the drawing board and make significant safety improvements to the spacecraft design. Following this, Apollo 4 took to the skies in November 1967 without a crew, marking the first test flight of the mighty Saturn V rocket. This mission was critical for testing how well the spacecraft's structure and heat shield could handle the stresses of launch and re-entry. Subsequent missions, Apollo 5 and Apollo 6, continued testing other vital components, including the lunar module, which astronauts would eventually use to land on the moon, and further checks on the Saturn V. The first manned mission of the series, Apollo 7, launched in October 1968 with astronauts Wally Schirra, Don Isley, and Walter Cunningham aboard. They spent 11 days orbiting Earth, thoroughly testing the command and service module's performance in space. Their successful mission proved the spacecraft was ready for more complex tasks, setting the groundwork for future travels to the moon. In a historic first, Apollo 8 carried humans beyond Earth's orbit in December 1968. Astronauts Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders became the first to orbit the moon, and they captured the iconic Earthrise photo, showing Earth rising over the moon's surface. This pivotal mission demonstrated it was possible to reach the moon, orbit it, and safely return to Earth. And that's not all. Apollo 9 followed in March 1969, focusing on testing the lunar module in Earth orbit. Astronauts James McDivitt, David Scott, and Russell Schweickart performed several critical maneuvers, simulating parts of the lunar landing. This mission was essential for validating the lunar module's readiness for the actual moon landing. Next up, Apollo 10, launched in May 1969, served as a full rehearsal for the moon landing. Astronauts Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan took the lunar module tantalizingly close to the moon's surface, about 9 miles away, practicing every aspect of the landing process except for the landing itself. This mission was crucial in ironing out any remaining kinks in the procedures and equipment before the actual landing attempt. Each of these missions was a building block, setting the stage for the landmark achievement of Apollo 11, which would eventually fulfill the dream of landing humans on the moon and safely returning them to Earth. The entire Apollo program was not just a series of technical exercises, it was a dramatic saga of human courage, technological innovation, and the unyielding drive to explore beyond our world. The iconic Apollo 11 mission, launched in July 1969, marked a significant milestone by achieving the first human landing on the moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made their way down to the moon's surface in the lunar module named Eagle, while their teammate Michael Collins remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Columbia. Armstrong's memorable declaration, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," perfectly captured the monumental nature of their achievement. During their time on the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin spent about 2.5 hours walking around, collecting rock samples, and carrying out scientific experiments before making their way back to Earth. Stay tuned for more. Following this, Apollo 12 launched in November 1969 with astronauts Charles Conrad, Alan Bean, and Richard Gordon. This mission showcased the improved accuracy of lunar landings by successfully setting down close to the Surveyor 3 spacecraft, which had been sitting on the moon since 1967. The astronauts engaged in thorough scientific work, gathering a substantial amount of lunar material to bring back for analysis. Apollo 13, which took off in April 1970, was planned as a third mission to land on the moon. However, it famously turned into a rescue mission when an oxygen tank exploded. This left astronauts James Lovell, John Swigert, and Fred Hayes to face grave difficulties. Despite the severe challenges, they managed to return safely to Earth, highlighting the strength of NASA's emergency protocols and the crucial importance of teamwork under pressure. Apollo 14, which lifted off in January 1971, saw astronauts Alan Shepard, Edgar Mitchell, and Stuart Roosa successfully making the way to the moon. Alan Shepard created a memorable moment by hitting golf balls on the lunar surface. During their mission, the crew carried out detailed scientific investigations to gather more data about the moon. In July 1971, Apollo 15 took things a step further by being the first mission to use the lunar roving vehicle. This innovative addition allowed astronauts David Scott, James Irwin, and Alfred Worden to venture further from their landing site than any previous mission. This enabled them to conduct a more expansive exploration of the lunar landscape. Apollo 16, launched in April 1972, aimed its explorations towards the lunar highlands. The crew, consisting of astronauts John Young, Charles Duke, and Thomas Mattingly, conducted various scientific experiments and returned with important geological samples, enhancing our understanding of the moon's composition. The Apollo program concluded with its final mission, Apollo 17, launched in December 1972. This last manned mission to the moon was also notable for including a professional geologist, Harrison Schmitt, alongside astronauts Eugene Cernan and Ronald Evans. They carried out extensive geological surveys and collected a large number of lunar samples. Schmidt's participation underscored the scientific emphasis of this mission, marking it as a unique blend of exploration and rigorous scientific study. Throughout its duration, the Apollo program saw a total of 24 astronauts travel to the moon, with 12 of them having the opportunity to walk on its surface. The program not only showcased the capabilities of human spaceflight, but also greatly expanded our scientific knowledge of the moon. The technology and expertise developed during these missions have had a lasting impact on the field of space exploration and continue to influence and inspire ongoing and future missions, aiming not just to return to the moon, but also to reach further into our solar system. The legacy of Apollo is one of courage, innovation, and discovery, driving us to keep exploring the unknown. While the Apollo missions showed America's skills, the space race itself was a global event that forever changed how we explore space. Space race USA versus Soviet Union. The space race was an intense competition in the mid-20th century, mostly between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was part of the larger Cold War dynamics, where both countries aimed to showcase their technological and ideological edges over the other. The competition kicked off on October 4, 1957, with the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1, the first ever artificial satellite. This event took the United States by surprise, leading to the urgent need to catch up in space technology known as the Sputnik crisis. Not long after, on November 3, 1957, the Soviets sent up Sputnik 2, which had a dog named Laika on board, the first animal to orbit the Earth. In reaction, the United States created NASA in 1958, bringing together various space exploration activities under one organization. Early efforts at NASA focused on the Mercury program, which aimed to put a person in space and bring them back safely. Alan Shepard was the first American to go to space on May 5, 1961, although he didn't orbit Earth. Following him, John Glenn orbited the Earth on February 20, 1962, becoming the first American to do so. The Soviet Union wasn't slowing down either. Yuri Gagarin made history as the first person to orbit Earth on April 12, 1961, aboard Vostok 1. The Soviets also marked other firsts, the first flight with more than one person on Voskhod 1 in 1964, and the first spacewalk by Alexei Leonov in 1965. President John F. Kennedy saw the urgency to make a bold move and declared the ambitious goal for the U.S. to land a man on the moon before 1970. This led to the Apollo program, which included several missions to test the technology and methods needed for a moon landing. Keep watching for more. Apollo 11 was the mission that finally met Kennedy's challenge. Launched on July 16, 1969, it successfully landed Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon on July 20, 1969. Michael Collins stayed in orbit around the moon. Armstrong's first steps on the moon were watched by millions around the world, marking a significant achievement for the U.S. in the space race. This period was a key chapter in space exploration history, highlighting not just technological innovation, but also the intense rivalry that pushed these advancements. The achievements of both the U.S. and the Soviet Union during the space race have left a lasting impact, paving the way for future explorations into space. The Soviet Union was initially leading the space game, but they ran into trouble with their moon mission plans. Their N-1 rocket, which was supposed to take cosmonauts to the moon, failed several times. Despite these problems, they managed some impressive feats. For instance, in 1966, Luna 9 was the first spacecraft to make a soft landing on the moon. Then in 1970, Luna 16 did something groundbreaking. It brought back moon rock samples without any humans aboard. During this intense competition, both the Soviet Union and the United States had their eyes on other celestial bodies as well. The U.S. launched probes like Mariner and Pioneer, which traveled to Venus, Mars, and even further out to the outer planets. On the other side, the Soviets sent a bunch of robotic missions aimed at the Moon and Venus. They even made history by landing Venera 7 on Venus in 1970, the very first time we touched down on another planet. The space race wasn't just about one-upping each other, though. By 1975, it started turning into something more collaborative. The Apollo-Soyuz test project was a big moment. It was the first time an American and a Soviet spacecraft docked in space. This mission really helped cool down the Cold War tensions and paved the way for more teamwork in space exploration down the road. And there's more. The impact of the space race went way beyond just sending stuff to space. It pushed technology, engineering, and science forward, leading to new inventions that have been used in all kinds of industries. It also showed that working together with other countries in space could lead to big things. This spirit of international cooperation helped create massive projects like the International Space Station, where astronauts from all over the world can live and work together out in orbit. Now, the world of space exploration is bigger than just the US and Russia. New countries like China and India are stepping up, and private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are pushing new boundaries. These modern explorers are taking the lessons and the legacy of the space race and driving us forward into new frontiers. This ongoing quest to explore space shows our never-ending curiosity about the universe and our place in it, proving that the path we started during the space race is far from over. As we continue to explore space, the competition of the past has transformed into a shared adventure that invites everyone. From reusing rocket boosters to dreaming about Mars colonies, the current space efforts stand on the shoulders of those Cold War-era missions, pushing us toward a future where the stars might finally be within our reach. Beyond the Moon, the path to learn about our universe led people to look at Mars with new missions trying to uncover the planet's questions. Mars missions, exploring the red planet. Mars exploration is a major goal for many space agencies around the world. They want to understand the planet's rocks, weather, and if it could have ever supported life. This exploration didn't just start recently. It goes way back to when astronomers first peered at Mars through telescopes centuries ago. By the mid-20th century, we began sending spacecraft for flybys, and later orbiters circled Mars, sending back images and data. This eventually progressed to sending landers and rovers that could touch down and study Mars up close. The Viking missions in the 1970s were pioneering efforts. These were the first missions that successfully landed on Mars and conducted experiments. They tested the Martian soil for signs of life and analyzed both the surface and the atmosphere of Mars. These early missions proved that we could not only reach Mars, but also perform scientific work there, setting the stage for all future Mars exploration missions. Fast forward to the past decade, and you see missions like Curiosity, Perseverance, and the InSight lander that have drastically expanded what we know about Mars. The Curiosity rover landed in Gale Crater back in 2012 and has been busy ever since. It's been checking out the climate and geology of Mars to figure out if the planet might have been a good place for tiny life forms at some point. Curiosity is also studying how water might have influenced Mars's habitability. The Perseverance rover, which touched down in Jezero Crater in February 2021, has a specific mission to explore an ancient river delta within the crater. It's collecting rock and soil samples that we plan to bring back to Earth one day. This rover also carries instruments to study the Martian weather and the geological makeup of its landing site. One of the coolest things Perseverance has done is deploy the Ingenuity helicopter, which is the first aircraft to fly on another planet. Ingenuity has shown that we can do aerial exploration on Mars, which opens up a whole new way of exploring the planet from the air. Meanwhile, the InSight lander has been on Mars since 2018, looking deep into the planet. It uses a seismometer to detect Marsquakes and other instruments to gather data about Mars's inner layers. This information is crucial for understanding Mars's geological activity and its thermal history. Looking ahead, NASA and the European Space Agency are working on the Mars Sample Return mission. This ambitious project aims to bring back the samples that Perseverance is collecting. Analyzing these samples back on Earth could tell us a lot, maybe even whether there was ever life on Mars. But NASA isn't the only one looking to unlock Mars's questions. The European Space Agency, along with Russia's Roscosmos, has its own program called ExoMars. This includes the Trace Gas Orbiter, which has been studying Martian gases since 2016, and the upcoming Rosalind Franklin rover, which will search for signs of past life and study the Martian ground and what lies beneath. But wait, there's more. China has also joined the global effort to explore Mars with its Tianwen-1 mission. This mission successfully put an orbiter around Mars and dropped the Zhurong rover to the surface. Zhurong is busy analyzing the Martian soil, atmosphere, and overall environment, adding to our growing understanding of this fascinating planet. The ongoing improvements in technology and teamwork between countries are key to exploring Mars further. Future missions will dig deeper into scientific questions like looking for signs of life, understanding the planet's weather and rocks, and getting ready for people to visit Mars. These missions will improve our knowledge of Mars and help plan for future efforts to have humans live there. One of the big goals for exploring Mars is to send people there. NASA's Artemis program, which is about getting humans back to the moon, is part of the bigger plan to send people to Mars. The things we learn from going to the moon again will help us figure out how to send astronauts to Mars, thanks to new tech and better infrastructure. Sending people to Mars is a huge task. It means dealing with the long trip, protecting astronauts from space radiation, figuring out how to keep them alive, and setting up a place where they can live sustainably. Researchers and engineers are busy coming up with solutions to these problems. They're working on living spaces and systems that could support life on Mars. Mars exploration has really evolved from the early days of just looking at the planet through telescopes. Now we've got orbiters flying around Mars, landers touching down, rovers cruising the surface, and even a helicopter flying through Martian skies. Each mission adds a bit more to our understanding of Mars, thanks to the data and findings they send back. This steady stream of information not only feeds our curiosity about our neighboring planet, but also sparks the imaginations of future explorers and scientists. Could the Apollo 20 mission be more than just a forgotten conspiracy? Might there be truths yet uncovered, waiting silently on the moon's surface? Share your thoughts and theories with us in the comments below. And if you're intrigued by the questions of space and confidential missions, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more.